HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business. Whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing, guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken audio entertainment and information. Listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Get a free book when you sign up for a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast continues to enjoy inclusion on lists of the best podcasts to listen to. And we are thrilled that we're such a great resource for small business owners, salespeople, entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. And this is thanks to our guests. These are folks who have expertise in particular areas of business, and they join me to share that expertise so that you folks can take what you need and implement some ideas and hopefully be more successful, happier, do better things in your business, that kind of thing. Today is no exception. My guest today is Louie Gadima. Louie helps companies from MIT startups to the Global 2000 increase their revenue by focusing on the fastest, least expensive, and most cost-effective programs to get more leads and sales. He's the founder and president of marketing consultancy Revenue and Associates, and previously founded and grew a marketing agency into one of the top 3 or 4 in its national market before a successful exit. He's the author of Bullseye Marketing, which is available on Amazon, and later in the podcast, he will share with you how you can get it. Thanks so much for joining me today, Louie.
Hi, Diane. It's a real pleasure, and congratulations on all those top 10, top podcast awards. It's understandable you do these terrific long conversations, which, are so valuable.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that, and you, and the variety of people. I've been so fortunate to have such great people join me and share what they know. It's really, and I get a lot of feedback from the audience that they really appreciate it, and it is tremendously valuable for them too. So it works.
Yeah.
We're going to keep doing it. So
Great.
So we are talking about marketing today, which is a great topic, and I think one that just small business owners, especially, I think they struggle with. There's so much information coming at them of the things that they should be doing, and if they're not marketers by education or training, it just feels like it's this sort of amorphous thing that they can't necessarily get their arms around. So let's start by talking about the kinds of results that companies can get if they're marketing better.
Yeah, and I think that's critical. And I think a lot of, small business owners, small and mid-size companies, the owners, the founders, they're often really good at their industry and they're good at sales, but marketing is just not part of their DNA, as you were saying. And, as you also said, it's so complex now. It used to be just 6 or 8 marketing channels like print and TV and direct mail, but now you've got dozens and dozens and thousands of vendors all claiming that theirs is the best. And so it's just become kind of overwhelming. But, study after study has shown that companies that market more and better grow faster. There was a study a couple of years ago of insurance agencies. Over 1,000 insurance agencies were surveyed, and those that spent the most grew the fastest. Everybody got leads from referrals, but the ones that did marketing got leads from several other sources. I did my own study a few years ago that I'm updating now, and I looked at marketing across small and mid-sized B2B companies. And specifically when I honed in on software companies, the ones that had the best marketing programs were growing 3 to 5 times faster than the ones that were doing very little marketing. I just had a conversation the other day. This head of sales and marketing at a company that used to be a family-owned business, has been around for 50 years as a family-owned business, had grown to about 3 dozen employees, so doing okay. But they got acquired 4 years ago, and the new owner decided they wanted, because they had paid for this company, they wanted much better results. They put in a full sales and marketing program, and in just 4 years they more than doubled what that company had done in the previous 50 years.
Wow.
So you just see it over and over again that companies can really accelerate their growth by using marketing. It shouldn't be an expense, it should be an investment in growth.
That's interesting. So why do you think that more companies don't market more? Is it money?
Well, as we were saying, it's not, very few owners, very few presidents come up from marketing. Most come up from sales, or they come up from the product side, or they come up from operations. Very few come up from marketing. And when you've got thousands of, when you've got dozens of channels, and then it's just like, where do you start? And that's really where the Bullseye approach came out of, because I was working with companies, as you said, from startups to very large companies, and I had developed this playbook of how they could produce results quickly and have quick wins. And that really was kind of in response to this problem, because what a lot of people do what a lot of companies do when they start to market, the buzzwords these days, the things that get a lot of attention are social media or content, blogging, those kinds of things. But those are very slow, long-term programs.
Yeah.
They can be valuable in the long run, but you're not going to get payback in 6 months. And so if someone starts with that, if a company starts with social media, or they start by blogging or producing a few videos or infographics or even doing display ads. They're not going to see many results, and after 6 months, they're going to say, "Oh, we knew it. Marketing doesn't work for us." But
Yeah.
but the whole point of the Bullseye the Bullseye marketing approach is so they can get those quick wins, see uh, how it can be useful for them, and then expand ultimately out into those longer term programs.
Okay, so explain to me what the Bullseye marketing concept is.
Basically, it divides marketing programs into 3 phases, 3 stages. And so the Bullseye has the center and the second and third rings to it. And what companies need to do is first take care of what's in the center of the bullseye. And these are what I call fully exploiting their existing marketing assets. So marketing assets are how I describe things that companies own already if they've been around for even just a few years, but they're rarely exploiting them fully. And in fact, quite often just not aware of what they're sitting on. And let me give you some examples.
That would be great. I
For
was just going to ask.
So one of the most central asset that companies have is their customers, and if they but very few companies actually talk to customers in a listening way. They do sales calls to current customers. They try to upsell them perhaps, but they very rarely have conversations where they're asking questions and they're really listening for half an hour or an hour to what's important to the customer, what can they improve, what are the concerns and the messages that really would work to produce better results for the company, for the vendor. And yet when I do these interviews for my clients over and over again, the clients are shocked by the information they get back. And even if they're a service company and they think that they're close to their customers, they get great insights. Let me just give you one example. I had a client who the owner said, all that our customers care about is price. I'm always skeptical if someone says that, but that's what he believed. So I said, well, I'll interview your customers and find out. And the very first customer that I talked to, who had been a customer for over a decade, at one point in the interview, I'll ask, I'll say, here are 7 or 8 reasons why you might have chosen a vendor in this field. Prioritize and tell me what the top 3 were for you. And so I said, price, timeliness, quality of service, innovation, industry reputation, etc. And this customer, the very first thing he says is, well, price wouldn't be in the top 3. And yet the owner thought price was number 1.
Yeah.
And because that's all someone will negotiate on price. They'll ask for a cheaper price, but customers are never going to say, can you do lower quality?
Right.
Can you be, can you be late? And so these kinds of things contribute to companies producing a better customer experience, better products and services, better marketing, better messaging. But another part about important fact about current customers is it's way cheaper to retain and upsell current customers, sell more to current customers than it is to acquire new customers. Like 5 to 25 times less expensive, which means that those new sales are much, much more profitable. And yet companies focus way too much on acquiring new accounts compared to the effort they put into retaining and growing existing accounts.
Yeah.
So that's one of those assets, but there's half a dozen of them. The website Uh, Often companies don't have clear messaging, and they don't have calls to action or conversion experiences. What we call conversion experiences, getting someone who visits the site to do what they want them to do. So I would say 99.99% of the people who come to most company websites come and go without a trace. No one knows who they were or what they wanted. And so it's really important to start, you know, taking advantage of that website traffic to get more leads. And I've doubled the number of web leads for some clients in just 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
Another example is email lists. I'll ask a company, how many email contacts do you have? And they say, oh, 9,000, 22,000. Or maybe they're smaller, maybe it's 3,000 or 1,000. Then I'll say, how often, how often you email them? Oh, at Christmas.
Yeah.
But email marketing is I call it the 500-pound gorilla of marketing.
Yeah.
It's very inexpensive. You can have a 10,000 contact list and mail it over and over for less on a service like MailChimp or Constant Contact for less than $100 a month.
I know.
So these are the marketing assets. That's in the center of the bullseye.
Okay.
And it costs almost nothing to listen, to do these email programs, to improve the website messaging and have those calls of action. It can be done in weeks or a few months. You get results really fast, and it's so inexpensive. And that lays the foundation for the other things. So in the second ring is selling to people who want to buy now. It's a big world, and it's very easy, with social media and content. You're really communicating to a very big audience. But if those people aren't buying, in the next few weeks or months, you're not getting any value back.
Yeah.
If someone bought a car last year or last month, they're not going to buy another car, this year. And so how do you get in front of the people who want to buy now? And search ads is one of the ways, because everybody starts their buying and their research on search. Looking at surges in your website traffic is a way. Suddenly do you start to see particular customers or prospects who are coming to your site a lot more than they used to, opening your emails, reading more, downloading more. There's third-party services that sell this kind of what we call intent data, people who intend to do something soon. And then the third ring is those long-term programs like social media, content and display ads and events, and direct mail and print that can really, produce results over 2 or 3 years. But if it's no place to start, that's what you want to build towards once you've laid the foundation.
It's so interesting. It makes perfect sense to me when you put it that way. And I agree with you. People are so busy being hunters that they forget they're also supposed to be nurturers, and that their current clients are the ones who already trust them. And so paying attention to them and knowing what's going on with them is invaluable. It ends up creating a much longer term relationship with them as well, which just increases opportunity over time.
Yeah, and in a sense, what I'm doing here is popularizing what I sometimes call the marketing 1% know and have been doing for years. So, elite marketers will often, when I describe this to them, they'll be like, well, of course. But it's not, of course, to 85% of the business world.
Right.
Because that literally, I would say 80 to 85% of the business world is not doing, what I or most marketers would think of as full or very robust marketing programs.
Yeah, I
And
think you're right about that.
but like you said, when you think about it, it makes a ton of sense. The first time I gave a talk on this, as I was developing the approach and before I wrote the book, I was, testing it out, giving a few talks on it. And when the Q&A came up, one of the people in the audience said, "This makes so much sense. Why has no one thought of it before?" uh, so I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something here.
Yeah.
I think this has value.
Yes, yes, it does. And it's so important too, because for me, this is it's so clear and commonsensical that I think it's the kind of thing that a small business owner who doesn't have a history in marketing can really grab onto. Like, this makes sense. I get this. This is something they can feel that they can do right away. And so it's those quick wins. That's what I was really so curious about, is what kind of quick wins are you talking about? And now I get it. And that's really empowering for these small business owners who feel like they don't understand marketing and they don't know if they're hiring a marketing company that's doing a good job. They don't understand any of the new ways of doing things, and they don't want to have to take the time to become expert at it.
Yeah, and there are other things in the center of the bullseye too. One of them that's critical for a company that does have a few dozen employees, isn't a real small business, but has perhaps a few salespeople and maybe someone doing marketing or is going to start that with this program, is having much better collaboration between sales and marketing. I actually had a client that was a $300 million software company. And it took 2 weeks for a lead to go from a good lead. This is a situation where someone fills out a form on a website and says, "We want to talk to someone now about buying." It would take 2 weeks for that to get to sales and be acted on. And by then it's done.
Wow.
Yeah. But you see this even, so small business people shouldn't think, oh, big companies do this, really well, but I don't. Because there's plenty of places, plenty of times when I've worked with those very large companies that there are even some things in the center of the bullseye that they're not taking advantage of.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I think they get that weird tunnel vision, and they tell their salespeople, just keep bringing in business, and they don't have that collaboration between those two. But they also don't really. I think they feel like they're paying them to bring in new clients, not necessarily new business, and really realizing you can get new business from an existing client.
Yeah, and sometimes you have some salespeople who are assigned for new accounts and others assigned to
Yeah.
existing accounts. But the best companies, in terms of that growing customer accounts, also focus intensely on customer success. And they have, Salesforce is an example of this, where they have a whole customer success group, and that's fundamental to their approach, which is that group is not selling. That group is just communicating with customers to make sure that they're using the product and getting the most out of it, and finding out, helping them use it better, so that they become successful, and then they can sell more. And these salespeople can sell more to them, and they become advocates. When your customer
Yeah.
is out there um, advocating for you, since people trust referrals much more than they trust advertising,
Yeah.
that's a huge plus. So that's part of that that center of the bullseye
Mhm.
also.
Mhm. I think that's key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to take a quick sponsor break, and then I have some more questions for you.
Okay.
Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have over 150,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to them on any device, including whatever you're hearing us on right now. And if you sign up at our link, which is audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, you get one free audiobook and a 1-month trial of the service. Some examples of books you can listen to on audible.com are Transform Your Company by Alex Vorobiev and The Irresistible Consultant's Guide to Winning Clients by David A. Field. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, explore the books that are of interest to you, and receive one free audiobook when you sign up for the trial. Today we're speaking with Louis Gadima about the value of Bullseye marketing, which is a fabulous concept. I'm loving this. And you, Louis, mentioned earlier that you did your own research of B2B companies, and so it prompted a question. Does this work for both B2B and B2C?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
any industry?
As far as, well, so when I did there are some companies that don't need marketing. A real estate investment trust, a REIT, doesn't need marketing. A company that's in a pre-product, development stage, pre-market development stage. There are companies that have very, very focused markets. When I was doing my study, I was looking at all these different companies, and one of them is a company that leases oil tankers to oil companies. I don't think they need to market. They know who the customer is. They know they have 20 or 30 customers, and they have the phone numbers and they have the contacts, so they probably don't need to market. So there are companies that don't need to market, but any company that's selling even to many hundreds of customers, let alone thousands or tens of thousands or millions, certainly can benefit from marketing.
Okay. And what about startups?
So in the book, at the beginning, I lay out who the book is for and what the Bullseye approach is. That's in the introduction in the first chapter. And then there's 20 more chapters on specific tactics. So lots of tips about how to improve how to do customer interviews, how to improve the customer experience in your website, how to do email marketing and the search ads and so forth. Chapter by chapter, it lays out hundreds of tips and best practices. Startups, and I work with startups. I mentor startups at MIT. Startups have a particular challenge because they don't have those center of the bullseye assets built up already. They don't have customers. They gotta scrap to get their first customers. They don't have a lot of website traffic. But a lot of the same, so they may be doing other things. One of the consumer startups that I work with does pop-up events, or they, in a mall or in a public, in an office building or things like that. For a B2B startup, they may be doing a lot of direct contact to companies that they want to sell to and doing a real direct sales outlet. But that's part of what's sometimes called account-based marketing. And so a lot of these techniques still work, but they have to have a little different spin. So you still need a website that has clear messaging and those calls to action and conversion experiences. Startups need those just as much as anyone else, but initially they're not going to have as much website traffic.
Right.
Startup absolutely should be doing those customer interviews. That's critical for a startup. The I-Core program recommends 100 customer interviews. And in fact, I think it requires 100 customer interviews for any startup that's involved in the program. They need to, as they start to build an email list, they can be using that. And so these things all are important to startups too, but they have to do a little different spin on it, and they're going to have other challenges that companies that have been around for a few years have grown past.
Yeah. Okay. So there's parts of it that they can do initially, but that there's some. It's more. There's tweaking that needs to be done so that it makes sense for where they're at.
Yeah, and it's just as important for them to understand that those third phase programs are probably not where they want to put most of their efforts initially. That they're not going to get a big bang for their buck or their time on social media unless their whole business is based on social media, of course. That's a
Right.
different situation.
Yeah.
You do sometimes, and a startup may have this situation. I worked with one company where it existed. In a particular industry, and that may be true in a startup industry, there may be very few companies producing content. And if it's a new field and you're the only one producing content, you can shoot to the top of Google listings really fast in a
Yeah.
way that you can't in mature industries. And
That's a good
so we were able, with that company, to actually get high rankings from just a small amount of content and get traffic from that. And we also were able to have successful search ad programs, partially because our competitors weren't good at it.
Yeah.
And you could see that our ads were producing a lot of leads, and after a few months, the competitors typically stopped running ads at all. For
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it wasn't surprising because when I was looking at their programs, I was like, they're not getting anything from this.
Yeah. So you really do have to. I mean, one of the things I like about this is that you have to look at the whole landscape realistically as you're determining, especially in that third ring, where you should be and what you should be doing. That feels to me like you really want to look and see what's going on, what other people doing, how can you differentiate yourself. Does it make sense
Yeah,
to even be there?
yeah, exactly. Part of the genesis of this was when many people think of marketing, people who aren't experienced with it, the third ring programs like social media and content, display ads, that's almost their definition of marketing.
Yes.
That's where they're going to start. If you asked someone what is marketing, they would say those things. And yet those are the slowest and take the longest to produce results. And so I was understanding, because of that problem, that why a lot of companies, and I was hearing from companies, we tried things, they didn't work. Search engine optimization is in that third ring, and
Yeah.
there's
Big
probably
one.
more shysters doing search engine optimization than any other kind of marketing program.
For sure.
So that's why I knew that this approach was needed. That's why I wrote the book, to help companies be much more successful, much more quickly, by understanding where the best opportunities were.
Yeah, I think it's so true. It's funny because at the beginning of this, I was thinking, wow, search engine optimization is one of those places that just really, that's one of the reasons why I think the small businesses don't like to market, because they're being told stuff they don't understand, and they don't know what the reality is, and then results aren't necessarily there. And part of the reason I think they all think that social media is where they need to be is because that's what they're being told by every marketing company out there.
Yeah. And, one of the realities is that social media has become worse and worse for brands over the last 5 years, because the social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and so forth, they've tweaked their algorithms to show brand posts less and less.
Yeah,
5 years ago, it used to be that if you were a brand on Facebook and you posted something, maybe 25% of your followers would see it. Today, that's more like 2%.
I
Because,
know, and everybody sees it. I know. I mean, they feel it. They know that's happening to them, because I get that question a lot too.
oh yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
so you could have 1,000 followers on Facebook, and if you posted something, maybe 20 would see it.
Yeah.
So, Facebook wants brands to pay for exposure now. And
Exactly.
frankly, most people on Facebook want to see the stuff from their friends and family, and that's what Facebook is prioritizing.
It's I think it's they're in a very interesting time. I think it's going to be interesting in the remainder of this year to see how all that pans out.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
one of the things that, because I don't expect that everybody is going to pick up the book, read it, and then be able to execute on everything. Um, and there's certainly channels and programs that I know very well, and others that I wouldn't be as adept at, even after 20 years of digital marketing experience. But
Yeah.
one of the things that the book will help business owners with, if they don't have the time, and that's another critical element in this, uh, is managing their vendors. As you said,
Oh.
search engine optimization, most business owners don't know what a good program would look like.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't, and so, and AdWords, which can be turned on in a matter of minutes. Uh, but in the book, I compare the management console for AdWords to the cockpit of a space shuttle. There's so many levers and buttons, and so many different new terms. It would be overwhelming for many small business people. But at least you can see that the ads are running, and you can see if you're getting return and so forth pretty quickly. But the book will definitely make them a much more informed manager and consumer of marketing services.
Yeah, that is awesome and so critically important. It does lead me to a question, which is, because it sounds like the other side of that is that even a small business owner with very little marketing experience could do this on their own. Is that your belief?
The biggest problem I run into, the last chapter of the book is one page, and it's called Execute. And the biggest challenge for many small business owners is the time element. They're already 110% busy. And now the idea that they're going to suddenly and consistently and repeatedly, because cadence is so important and consistency is so important, that they're going to keep at this, week after week, when it's totally new to them. I think it will be that will be challenging for most small business owners.
Yeah.
And so they may have more success if they use an agency or a consultant to manage and execute on a lot of this for them, and that they manage and meet with, you know, that they understand they're going to have to provide a lot of information for those vendors, that they're going to have to review things and help them with the content development and so forth, but that they don't necessarily try to do it all themselves. Because I think that from a pure time point of view, that would probably be very difficult.
Okay, I think that's a good point. So it isn't a matter of being able to understand it. They'll be able to understand it, which will make it easier for them to manage their vendors and make sure they're getting what they should be getting out of them.
Yeah, and what a lot of people have said who have read the book is that it's a very, and this was deliberate, it's a very readable, approachable, non-jargon filled book that, so that people who are not really deep into a lot of marketing terminology can get a lot out of it.
Yeah, that's great. So what are the biggest challenges you think companies face when they start Bullseye marketing?
Well, it's that time and budget
Okay.
commitment and the executing that they do
Okay.
have. No one in a small business, or not even many people in a big business, are sitting around, twiddling their thumbs.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a matter of, giving a serious look to their time management and personal productivity, and how can they free up half an hour or an hour a day on average to do this.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a matter of offloading lower priority tasks to other people. Sometimes it's, like I said, bringing in consultants and marketers, whether they're on staff or outside, to and you may start off with someone who's just part-time. There's an awful lot of resources to connect with really good people all over the world, frankly, who can help with this. So I think the biggest challenge, because the center of the bullseye is not expensive, so money should not be a huge issue. The biggest challenge is more on the management, the time management, the execution side of it, and being very consistent.
Yeah. I find that when people have an initiative like that and they break it down into really small pieces and don't have grand expectations of huge progress quickly, that they get it, that it's going to take time, and so they break it down and they just keep working it methodically, that they find themselves getting things done successfully in that inner circle, in that bullseye, and it can become just a matter of course of how they do business. But at first, they have to intentionally make sure they're getting it done until they build the habit.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is so great. I love this concept. I think it is so manageable and understandable for small business. I think it really is empowering for them. So will you tell the listeners where they can get the book? I know we said Amazon, but and how they can find you and all that neat stuff.
So the website with book information is louisgadima.com, but just go to Amazon and look up Louis Gadima Bullseye Marketing. It's the only book I've written, so it should come up. And there's Kindle and paperback versions available there. And then my agency is Revenue and Associates, and our website is revenueassociates.biz. And I'm on Twitter as Louis Gadima. And so those are all places where you can connect with me, and would love to hear from people.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for coming on and explaining this concept. As I said, I think it's tremendously valuable for the listeners, and gives them a way to go, which is a beautiful thing. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Diane. I've enjoyed it.
My pleasure, and I'd like to thank our listeners, as always, and our sponsor. To get a free trial of audible.com, as well as a free audiobook when you sign up for that trial, go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
The Jim Stroud Podcast explores the discoveries and trends forming the future of our lives. Brain-to-brain communication, robot bosses, microchip implants for workers, and artificial intelligence replacing human workers are all happening now. If you want to know what's happening next, subscribe now to the Jim Stroud Podcast.